Chosen one. If you're watching this right now, it's not a coincidence. There's something in your spirit that brought you here, even if you don't fully know why yet. You may have clicked out of curiosity, or maybe because you couldn't sleep, or because something felt heavy and you needed clarity. Whatever the reason, you're here now. And that matters. Picture this. A middle-aged man sits in his car after work. The engine is off, but his hands are still resting on the steering wheel. He's parked in a grocery store lot, staring straight ahead. People walk past his windshield with carts and grocery bags, but he barely notices. He isn't sad. He isn't angry. He's just empty. The kind of emptiness that doesn't come from loss, but from repetition, from years of doing what needs to be done. Until one day it quietly stops feeling like enough. Inside his mind, a question rises that he never used to ask. Is this really it? Is everything I worked for supposed to feel this small? If that scene feels familiar, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not mistaken. When something inside you begins to shift, when your work no longer fits the way it once did, it's easy to assume you're ungrateful or restless or burned out. But sometimes, it isn't dissatisfaction. Sometimes, it's the direction. There are moments when God doesn't interrupt your life with noise or spectacle. He speaks softly. He allows a subtle misalignment, a quiet discomfort, a sense that you're out of rhythm with where you are. Not because you failed, but because you've grown. Think about the story of Samuel. When God first called him in the night, Samuel didn't recognize the voice. He ran to Eli, confused, thinking someone else was calling his name. It took time before he understood what was happening, but even before his mind caught up, his spirit responded. He heard something real, even if he couldn't name it yet. That's how calling often works. You feel it before you understand it. You sense it before you can explain it. Something in you knows that where you're standing is no longer where you're meant to stay. If your job feels strangely heavier lately, if your position no longer brings the fulfillment it once did, don't rush to silence that feeling. Don't assume it's random. It may be an invitation, a signal that God is trying to get your attention, not to take something from you, but to lead you forward. You may not have the full picture yet. That's okay. Neither did Samuel. But if your spirit is listening, you're already closer than you think. That restlessness, that weight in your chest every Sunday night before Monday begins. It's not just stress, it might be a holy disruption. You know the feeling. It starts small. You wake up and stare at the ceiling longer than usual. You sit through meetings, nodding, smiling, saying what's expected, but inside, you're somewhere else, detached, numb, maybe even irritated for reasons you can't explain. People ask, "How's work?" You smile. You say, "It's fine." Because what else can you say that you feel invisible, misplaced? Like your time here passed, but you're still showing up out of habit. You don't hate your job. You're grateful for it. But something in you knows this isn't it anymore. That tension isn't just emotional. It might be spiritual. A quiet signal that the place you're standing no longer fits the person you're becoming. In the Bible, Joseph understood this. One day, he was the favored son with big dreams. The next, he was thrown into a pit, sold, falsely accused, and imprisoned. If Joseph judged his future by his present, he would have assumed God had abandoned him. But in reality, God was positioning him. The pit, the prison, the betrayal, all of it led to the palace. You may not be in a prison, but maybe you're in a role that feels like a cage. Not painful enough to leave, but not fulfilling enough to stay. A hard place, everything looks the same office, same tasks, same people, but something inside you has shifted. Not around you, within you. That shift doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It might mean God is starting to move you. Sometimes, God unsettles you emotionally before He moves you physically. He stirs your spirit, loosens your roots. So when it's time to go, you're ready. This might not be a rough patch. It could be a divine transition. So don't bury the unease. Bring it to God. Ask what He's saying in the silence. Because the discomfort may not be an ending. It may be a beginning. Not all shifts are loud. Some start with tension. A whisper that says, you were made for more. Work is more than a paycheck. It's where your time, energy, and identity often go. So when God redirects your life, He often starts there. Moses is a perfect example. Raised in royalty, trained in power, then suddenly exiled to the wilderness. He became a shepherd, guiding sheep through dry land for 40 years. It looked like a failure. But that desert season was preparation. In stillness, Moses learned patience, humility, and leadership, not for sheep, but for a nation. This pattern still plays out today. A woman spent years climbing the corporate ladder. She led teams, hit goals, and earned respect. Then one day, she was let go with no warning. At first, she was crushed. But in that space, she started writing. Not for work, just to process the pain. Her journal became a book. That book helped others heal. Her job ended, but her purpose expanded. If your work feels unstable or unfulfilling, it may not be a setback. It may be where God is reshaping you. Sometimes, the assignment ends before the next calling becomes clear. Often, the work that feels smallest is doing the deepest work inside you, even if no one sees it yet. But God sees, and He's preparing you for what's next. You're not being punished. You're being refined. You're not being pushed out. You're being called forward. Let that truth settle in you. Because sometimes the most powerful transitions don't start with opportunity. They start with discomfort and the restlessness in your spirit. It might be heaven saying it's time. You're not lost. You're being led. And what feels uncertain now will make perfect sense later. You've felt the pressure. You've seen the signs. And now, heaven is opening a door you didn't know existed. Maybe the job you once loved doesn't feel the same. The people feel distant. Leadership has shifted. Priorities changed. The passion you carried into Mondays has faded. At first, You called it a phase, a rough patch, but now it's harder to deny something's off. The rhythm is broken. The fit no longer feels right. What once made sense now leaves you questioning if you're supposed to stay or if God is moving you. Often, before anything changes on the outside, God lets you feel the weight of misalignment on the inside. Think of Esther. She didn't chase position or power. She was an orphan girl, taken into a palace, crowned queen, and placed in a moment that would shape history. Her calling didn't fully awaken until she faced fear. She could have stayed silent. Safer, easier. But she knew she wasn't placed there by accident. And her words still echo today. Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Maybe that's what this is. Not loss, not failure, but a shift, a calling forward. We stay in places because they're familiar. They pay the bills, they feel safe. But God doesn't call us to comfort. He calls us to align, to purpose. If doors are closing, it may not be failure, but favor. If people are drifting, it may not be rejection, but protection. If your spirit is restless, it may not be burnout, but heaven whispering. It's time. This isn't the end of your story. It's a redirection of your assignment. You've prayed for clarity, for breakthrough, for direction. What if this discomfort is the answer God's not taking something from you? He's making room for what's next. The season is shifting. Heaven is moving. And whether you feel ready or not, the door is already opening. If you hold tighter to what God is trying to release you from, it will start to feel like it's suffocating you. Change is rarely easy. Even when we sense God leading us somewhere new, part of us wants to stay. We call it wisdom or responsibility, but often it's just fear dressed up as faithfulness. The truth is, us staying in the wrong place can feel safer than stepping into the unknown. But safety isn't always obedience. Lot's wife is a quiet warning. God rescued her family and told them not to look back. But she did, and it cost her everything. She couldn't let go, so she couldn't move forward. There are seasons when clinging to what could cost you what could be, not because God is punishing you, but because He's trying to lead you and you won't follow. Think about this. A man worked hard his whole life, provided for his family, found purpose in his career. As retirement neared, people urged him to slow down, but he resisted, afraid that without the job, he'd lose his worth. Then came a heart attack. During recovery, he started helping at church, teaching kids scripture. At first, it felt small. But soon, he realized this was the most alive he'd felt in years. What felt like loss became a doorway. You may not understand why things are shifting, but resisting the shift won't stop it. It'll only make it harder. If God is moving you, it's not failure, it's preparation. Let go not because you're quitting, but because you're growing. Trust the timing. Trust the discomfort. Trust the one who's leading you. You're not being pushed out. You're being called forward. This isn't a career move. It's a calling shift. And your soul needs to be ready before your resume ever is. What you're feeling isn't just about a job change, it's deeper. This is about your assignment, your purpose, and God preparing you for something you can't fully see yet. And here's what we often forget. Preparation doesn't start with planning. It starts with the heart. Before you update LinkedIn, polish your pitch, or search for what's next, God is already working in the unseen. What He wants first isn't strategy, it's trust, obedience, stillness. Remember David. He was anointed king while still a boy, watching sheep. The oil hit his head, but nothing changed overnight. No throne, no title, just a return to the field. Years passed. He faced rejection, danger, and waiting. But God was shaping him not for a crown, but for the kind of character that could carry it. God does the same with us. Sometimes He calls us long before He releases us. The waiting isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's where roots deepen. It's where faith is made real. So what do you do while you wait? You slow down. You listen. You create space for God to speak. Maybe it's a quiet prayer in the early morning. Maybe it's journaling what you sense. Maybe it's obeying a small nudge that doesn't fully make sense yet. It's tempting to chase the next step. But God isn't in a hurry. He's more concerned with who you're becoming than how fast you get there. So don't just ask God to change your situation. Ask Him to prepare your spirit. Because when the door opens, and it will, you won't just walk through it. You'll be ready for what's on the other side. You didn't find this message. It found you because God needs you to know you're not being replaced. You're being reassigned. Think about what brought you here. The restlessness, the quiet tension. That gut feeling that something had to shift, even if you couldn't explain it. This wasn't just about frustration. It wasn't just about a job you outgrew or a role that stopped fitting. It was about direction, alignment, calling. God has been shifting you internally to prepare you for what's next externally. You've gone from confusion to clarity, from anxiety to awareness. And now, you're being called forward not into chaos, but into purpose. This isn't the end of your story. It's the start of something new. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." That promise wasn't general. It was personal, spoken over you. God hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't overlooked you. He's been preparing you. Now you're standing at the edge of something new. You might not have the full picture, but you don't need it. The God who brought you here will lead you from here, step by step. Picture that man again, sitting in his car after a long day. But this time, he exhales. He reaches for the door handle and steps out. The air feels different. He doesn't have all the answers. But for the first time in a long time, he's not afraid. Maybe that's you. You're not behind, not late, not disqualified. You're chosen. You're seen. You're called. So take a breath. Take a step. And trust the one who called you by name. You're not being replaced. You're being reassigned. And your next chapter is already unfolding. Before you go, don't just walk away with encouragement. Walk away with action. If this message spoke to something deep in you, don't let it fade the moment the screen goes dark. Let it lead you into a conversation with God and into a quiet, intentional next step. Start here with a simple prayer. Lord, I don't want to hold on to what you've already released. Help me trust you even when I can't see the way ahead. Let that be your anchor, not just today, but in the days to come. And if you're wondering what to do next, here are 3 simple steps you can take right now. First, grab a journal or a note on your phone and write down 3 things that have made your current work feel heavy or draining. Be honest. This isn't about complaining. It's about clarity. Second, for the next 7 mornings, before anything else, take a moment to pray. Ask God to show you what He's preparing. You don't need long words, just a willing heart. Third, share this video with someone you know is in the same place. Someone who feels stuck. Someone who's questioning what's next. You never know how timely your message could be for someone else's breakthrough. The shift you're sensing isn't the end. It's a doorway. God isn't punishing you. He's preparing you. He's not closing something just to leave you empty. He's clearing space for something new. So take a step, however small, however uncertain. Your obedience in this season is shaping the path to the next. And remember, He's not done with you. He's just getting started somewhere new.